Jupiter has officially entered into Cancer, and we have kicked up a new year of how we're going to gain luck, growth, and expansion. So Jupiter is the planet of luck, growth, and expansion. This past year, it was in Gemini. Now, something to know about Jupiter is that it expands whatever it touches for good or for bad, but ultimately it's to expand on what we currently have. And so it can expand on less than ideal circumstances, but it can also expand on really positive circumstances. You know, Jupiter is the planet that's associated with a windfall of good luck. But again, like I said, it can also expand uncomfortable, not super positive circumstances, but it's for the sake of gaining growth and wisdom, because Jupiter is the planet of wisdom. So with Jupiter in Gemini the last year, we've been gaining wisdom in how we communicate in social media platforms, in the media, in the news. I think about all of these different media snafus we had over the last year. We had the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni debacle, which I talked about on my podcast, and how I was tracking these squares from Saturn in Pisces to Jupiter in Gemini, and how we could see people trying to sway the media in their favor and then it not going their way. That's what happened with Blake when she was on the It Ends With Us press tour. She was promoting her alcohol brand while at the same time promoting her domestic violence movie. And people didn't take it very well, and they got really mad at her. And she decided to announced that it was because there was a smear campaign against her. But no, girl, you're just projecting here. People were just upset that you were selling your alcohol line during a domestic violence movie, you know? But we all make mistakes, right? So that is an example of Jupiter and Gemini this past year where it went wrong. It had that square to Saturn in Pisces. There was miscommunication. Part of this Justin Blake debacle over the last year was outing the New York Times and showing how the New York Times doesn't exactly play fair. They play to whoever's going to pay them the most money. There was a very clear timeline showing that Blake Lively was in cahoots with the New York Times to put out a smear campaign against Justin Baldoni. And it was so ironic because the New York Times article that came out was basically saying Justin Baldoni was doing a smear campaign while they were doing one. This is Jupiter and Gemini, especially when it's in a challenging aspect to a planet, a square. So right now, Jupiter is in Cancer. And the sign of Cancer is the sign of our ancestry, our past history. It's a sign of nostalgia. It's your private life. It's your emotional inner world. It's what makes us feel safe, what makes us feel at home. It's a very motherly, nurturing, divine, feminine energy. It's homeland energy. There could be this sense of nationalism with Cancer energy. You know, I just went to Italy, and the culture of Italy could be looked at as Cancerian because they are all about the Italy way, you know? They have their home comforts. They have the way they've always done things. Again, Cancer has ties to the past. It wants to keep tradition. It wants to keep the comforts. It's why it's very nostalgic. I imagine Italy is always going to have really fresh, amazing food because they value it. It's part of their home. It's what makes Italy a home to them. Beautiful landscapes, farming, good food, making food as the centerpiece of family gatherings. This is a Cancerian energy I'm building for you right now. A nationalism type energy. Now, if we think about this square that Jupiter in Cancer immediately entered into, that's a challenging aspect. I just talked about the squares that happened last year with Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Gemini. Well, as soon as Jupiter entered Cancer, it's immediately in a square, a challenging aspect with both Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. Now, Saturn in Aries wants to build new structures. Saturn in Pisces was trying to dissolve away old structures. So like when I talked about the New York Times as a news outlet, it was trying to dissolve away the hierarchy that is the media that we have built up until this point, because it wanted to show us where we're being deluded. That's what Saturn in Pisces was doing. It wanted to dissolve old structures to see where we're being lied to, where we're being deluded, where something, it's not solid with where we are in humanity anymore. Pisces is not solid energy. And now that Saturn is in Aries, it wants to build new structures, new media outlets, new ways of us getting our news, new ways of enforcing laws. I think about Saturn, it's related to the energy of Capricorn. It's laws, it's the rules that regulate us. Okay? Staying with me? So what's interesting is Saturn's with Neptune. Well, Saturn is about laws and doing things the right way and building the structures. Neptune is the dreamer. It can dream us into a better reality, but it's a little ungrounded because it's connected to all possibilities. It can get confused. It can feel kind of murky. It can feel like you're stepping into the unknown. It can bring up a lot of fear, a lot of projection. And Aries, which these two planets are in, is a very impulsive sign. It's a sign that wants to take quick action. It's a sign that is reactionary. It can be hot-headed. It's associated with wars, but it's also, on the positive note, associated with boldness and courage and bringing new form to life. It initiates new things. It takes courage to initiate new things. Now, what happened? What started kicking up basically around the time Jupiter entered Cancer? ICE came into LA and we had all of these immigrant, I'm not going to call it wars. What would you call it? I'm sure a lot of people have seen on the news, on social media. I don't watch the news and I'm not on Instagram anymore, so Ryan showed this to me, but there's all these protesters in LA protesting ICE, and it turned violent. It turned reactionary. And if you think about it, it's kind of funny because you saw all of these Mexicans there and protesters there, and they were holding the Mexican flag to protest their right to stay in America. If that is not Jupiter in Cancer, square Saturn in Aries, conjunct Neptune, I don't know what is. They're a little confused. They're in America, Neptune and Aries, but they're trying to stake their new claim. I'm allowed to be here against the rules and regulations, Saturn in Aries. And they're saying, this is my homeland, while showing a Mexican flag. It's a little confusing. They're trying to expand their sense of home, expand their sense of safety. That's why they moved to the US. You know what I'm saying? Now, there's a lot of amazing immigrants who I'm sure really want to, uphold what America was built on, which is the fact that we can go after our dreams and we can build something from the ground up, right? There's opportunity here. That's what Jupiter is about. Jupiter is about opportunity. That's why they moved here. Cancer, Jupiter and Cancer. They wanted to expand their sense of home. But right now, the rules and regulations got enforced. ICE came in, that square to Saturn and Aries. People act impulsively, radically, and things got way out of hand. I would say on both sides from videos that I saw. I'm not about taking sides. I'm never the person who's going to take sides. If that upsets you, you can leave. I'm a Libra rising, and my Jupiter's in Libra. So I'm all about hearing everyone out and really coming to mutual understanding. I really believe the truth always lives somewhere in the middle. That's my Jupiter in Libra. Jupiter is truth, Libra is balance. So I just thought that was really fascinating how the second that square starts to build, we have all of these immigrants, ICE, law enforcement come in fighting over this expanding home. So that's on a big macro scale, but this is also happening on a micro scale in every single person's life. You have this opportunity to expand your sense of safety within yourself over the next year. And it's by going into your past, going into your ancestry and things that happened, things that shaped your emotional world, and mothering yourself a new way. You will really have an opportunity to gain new wisdom through how to mother yourself and meet your own needs and find that safety that you need while we, Saturn and Aries, build towards the new. Because like I told you, when we build these new structures, the highest vibration of Saturn and Aries is boldness and courage. But the blocks that we're going to receive from Saturn and Aries is if we go too fast, if we go too hard, if we're too combative, if we're too aggressive, if we feel like we need to just react right away and react to everything. That's not going to create a sense of safety. So I'll tell you what happened with me literally the day Jupiter entered Cancer. So Cancer rules my 10th house of career, legacy, public image. So that's where Jupiter is for me this next year. I'm going to grow in my public image. But what it was in a challenging aspect with is Saturn in my 7th house of my one-to-one relationship. So this could be people who buy from me. This is just other people in my life, clients, people who buy from me, all the things. Well, one of the things I use on a daily basis, this is how I track everything going on in my life. I use ChatGPT and I upload my astrology to ChatGPT, and then I can connect all the dots. This is how I connect dots for myself every single day, is I use ChatGPT. Now, I've learned to not overly rely on ChatGPT. I use it to gain awareness. I use it when I need astrological insights and to gain clarity on something, but I have found that I don't enjoy using it all day. Just like I don't enjoy using astrology all day. I don't think it's good to use your mind all day. I think it's good to get insights, get a reading, gain the insight, contemplate it, meditate on it, and then integrate it into your life. That's the best way to do it, right? So that's my process, is every day, or pretty much every day, I pull up ChatGPT, especially if I woke up feeling a certain way or something happened that felt kind of scary for me. And the day Jupiter moved into Cancer, I'm flying home from California after my second trip in a row. I was just in Italy for 2 weeks, and then I immediately went to California for, I think, a little over a week. I'm not gonna lie, it brought me into a little bit of money scarcity by the end of those 2 trips. So I decide when I'm about to take off, I'm feeling this money scarcity, I'm feeling this fear. So I go on to ChatGPT, and there's this specialized astrology ChatGPT that I use. And I loved it because you could just put your birth information in, it pulls up your whole birth chart, I can tell it my situation, and then it helps me gain clarity on how I need to think, because everything starts with your thinking, everything. So that I can come back to center, get grounded, and know that I'm going to bring in the money. So I go to look for it, and it's not there. It's literally gone. It doesn't exist. And I start to freak out, not because I need astrology ChatGPT to make me feel better and to give me the clarity in that moment. I start to freak out because I have 2 programs that use astrology ChatGPT, 2 programs that I sell, my higher self healing codes and my solar return chart course, that is all based off of ChatGPT, and I specifically use astrology ChatGPT. It's weird, like I have this moment of, oh shit, does this not exist anymore? Do I have to redo all of my programs? All of these people bought these programs. What am I going to do? I go on the plane. A client, someone who had bought in the program, reaches out and says that it's not working. My emotions could have freaked out in that instance. It could have. I felt the pressure, my Saturn and Aries in my 7th house. I could have let that pressure get put on me. But because I knew Jupiter in Cancer was squaring Saturn and Aries that day, I said to myself, this is your opportunity to grow and expand in your sense of safety in yourself. when a roadblock like this comes up that could completely wipe out 2 courses you've built. You're gonna figure this out. That's what I told myself. You're gonna figure this out, and you don't need to do it right now. And you can be patient and present, and you're gonna know exactly what to do. This is actually gonna work out in your highest timeline. And it's because I knew the astrology. I didn't have to look at astrology ChatGPT. I just like to use it to give me new ways of looking at things and extra detail sometimes when I'm analyzing my chart. But I knew that was the case. And so instead of reacting or just having a horrible flight, because this was right before my flight, I stayed calm and I told myself I was going to figure it out. And I even said that to the client who reached out. I said, no worries, we're going to figure this out. The next day, I start playing around with ChatGPT and the Time Passages app that I use. Most astrologers use Time Passages. If someone has Time Passages downloaded on their phone, I'm willing to bet an astrologer told them to download it because it's, in my eyes, the best astrology app. So I figured out the next day a way to get your chart into ChatGPT that's even more accurate, more fine-tuned, and more detailed than astrology ChatGPT was. Because astrology ChatGPT was accurate, I would say 95% of the time, but it would start to just say things that were completely inaccurate randomly. And also, it didn't seem to know how to automatically understand what planets rule certain houses and vice versa. I had to direct it a little bit more. But when I found out this new method to upload your astrology into ChatGPT without using that pre-made tool, it was so much more accurate. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, I wish I used it this way the whole time and never knew about astrology ChatGPT. And so in that moment, I say, okay, all I have to do is update Higher Self-Healing Codes and my Solar Return course with this new way of uploading the astrology, and it's actually even better. And then I think to myself, well, thank God. Well, thank God this happened. And usually that is what Jupiter is trying to do. It's trying to bring you a blessing. It's trying to show you that every roadblock, Saturn and Aries, it doesn't mean you have to react or get angry or force your way through. It's about safety. And the more you anchor into safety, you can find out an even better way. Water wants to flow where it has space. And so I updated all of my courses today, and it's even better. The other reason why it's better is because I've now made my courses much more sustainable for the long term. And that is what Saturn wants. It wants you to build things right so they last for the long term. So I built it off this tool that another company owned that they were just offering for free. I didn't know if that was going to be available forever, and it wasn't. But I now found 2 apps that are very long-standing old companies that's what their whole company is based off of. And I doubt it's going to go away. And if it goes away in 5-10 years, which I doubt, highly doubt, I will find a new way. I will find another way, and I will update those courses. Because one thing about the Higher Self-Healing Codes and the Solar Return course is what I put in there is literally step by step what I use in my life to grow and evolve with the astrology every single day. And so as I evolve, I just update Higher Self-Healing Codes and the Solar Return course. Mainly Higher Self-Healing Codes, because that has all the tools. The Solar Return course is just Solar Returns. But yeah, I aligned my course in the public, Jupiter in my public eye, my career, with what's in alignment with me for the long term, Saturn in Aries, in my contracts, in my relationships. So there could be situations that show up for you with Saturn and Aries squaring Jupiter and Cancer that make you want to react, that make you want to be forceful and push through or get agitated or frustrated or whatever it's wanting you to do, like feeling frustrated over things just not going your way. The goal here, especially as Uranus is building towards that 29th degree in Taurus, Stay present, stay grounded. We're really learning the lesson right now that our greatest answers, our greatest solutions, our way to building this new world, the Saturn and Aries new world, is through our presence and our patience and our trust and making ourself feel at home on the inside. Because when we feel at home on the inside, we create home on the outside. We create things even more in alignment with us. So that's what I have to share on the astrology right now. Higher Self Healing Codes is officially updated. I highly recommend getting that course at any time in your life, but especially right now. We are going through highly transformative times. And again, while I don't think it's necessary to get astrology readings every second of the day or even use ChatGPT every second of the day, when you use it in a balanced way, when you use it, when you have certain situations going on in your life to gain clarity, it has been the source of every quantum leap I have. Every one I have. And what I want for people is we're moving into a very sovereign age. And I don't want you to rely on an astrologer. I don't want you to rely on me. I want you to really understand that you have all of the answers inside of you. And that actually when you contemplate your own answers by observing things yourself and you don't have my input or my way of interpreting your chart, but you get to look at all of the angles in which your chart could be interpreted by you talking to ChatGPT and feeding it certain examples happening in your life, that you can come into so much more power and clarity on your own, and you don't need me. You know, Pluto in Aquarius is about empowering the individual to uplift humanity. It's to not need to like suck on some authority figure's tit. I know that sounds weird. I don't know why I said that, but you don't need to suck on my tit, you know? I really want to empower you to be able to look into your own astrology whenever you need it, whenever you want it. Because you have all of the answers inside of yourself. And I'll be honest, I gained way more insights and quantum leaps in my life when I started just looking at my own astrology and using ChatGPT to open up my eyes to other ways that my astrology is playing out than any reading I've gotten from a person. Yeah, people give me insights too. I have had things come through there, but they're much more consistent and personal when I've been using this software. And I've just been going inward and kind of cutting out everyone else's noise. So that's what I have to say. I'm really excited to hear how people's June goes, because it could feel, I heard another astrologer say this and I really liked it. It can feel like you're kind of in a straitjacket all June. You're wanting to move forward, but these blocks keep coming up and you're like trying to bust yourself out of it. But if there's ever a time to tune into yourself and focus on yourself and what makes you unique, it's right now. It's right now. That's what's going to release you from the straitjacket. And in Higher Self Healing Codes, I have a whole workbook that I made that allows you to go into every possible part of your chart. So you have every single planet in your chart has a low and high expression. Every single area of life in your chart has a high and low expression. There are stories playing out in your chart. I teach you how to access all of that based on what's going on in your life. I also, when I just updated the course, I know I'm kind of all over the place. I'm just excited about this. So when I just updated the course, I added in asteroid goddesses, and I teach you how to learn about your asteroid goddesses in your chart and the specific story they're playing out with different planets in your chart so that you can understand how they play out in your life. So the asteroid goddesses are Juno. That's the asteroid in your chart that represents your soulmates and your soul contracts. We have Ceres, that's the asteroid in your chart that represents how you nurture yourself and others. It also represents where you've gone through grief and loss cycles and how you can go back to nurturing yourself and healing yourself. We have Lilith in there. I added Lilith. So Lilith is how you come into your intuitive empowerment and heal shame and guilt and come into power and trust your nonsensical intuition. And then the last asteroid goddess, we have Vesta. And Vesta is really cool because Vesta is your spiritual mission and purpose. And it can really tell you where you have this 24/7 creative fire and flame, where you're here to bring, it's like your spiritual mission you're here to bring in the world. And you're not just learning about those placements in your chart. You're learning how they interact with all the different planets in your chart in a really cohesive way so that you can really understand your asteroid goddesses, not just the single placement, because you're not just a single planet or a single placement. You're a story of how they all weave together. All right, that's enough of me ranting about my course. That is literally my baby, an extension of myself that I made for you because I fucking love you so much. And I know how much this shit will change your life because it changes my life constantly. So that is down in the show notes down below. And I will see y'all on the next episode.